Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard. Hey, guess what? John and I are back. We're going to get right into the candidates so we can give them ample time. We're not going to be doing too much talking. But see, this young man, he's there. He's really on the deal. He does all that research. I'm just here representing community, right? He's a community person also too. But I've been around for a couple of days, right?
A few
days.
People know you.
Yeah. But anyway, we got some very interesting candidates. John has pretty well laid it out to them about their resumes and their lanes, if you will, and that helps them out too. By the way, unlike commercial TV, it's a whole different ball game. You get that 15-second or 1 minute, and you can't very well get the point across. We want folks to be able to express their resumes,
yes,
express their lanes, if you will, because that's what the community needs, and it's very, very important. So that's why we're doing this thing, and that's why John is here, and he's doing an excellent job. John?
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Before we jump into the next candidate interview or finish up,
sure,
Sarah Silkie's interview, I had a couple little nuggets, rumors that wanted to just bounce off of you.
Now, you know what that does to me now. I mean, I bring that historical piece
yes.
in there.
Well, so you know that the city recently reorganized, created a new organizational chart. And actually, Sarah Silkie was there with me to give testimony about how that structure should be.
Wait, what does that mean?
So basically, since the city's reorganizing with a city manager administer all the bureaus, one of the things that the new organizational chart allows is that to have deputy city administrators.
When did that come about?
So that was, I think it was voted on back in October.
I thought it was just one person that was going to basically be a city manager running this whole piece, and he would have a staff.
30 new employees.
What?
And so, yeah. Okay.
Well,
okay, so that's not the juicy part.
What was that, Joe?
Well, the juicy part is that Rene Gonzalez just appointed the first deputy city manager.
Well, he's a commissioner. What happened to the mayor?
Well, it was a surprise.
How did he get to be?
It was a surprise to everybody. It was just one day. He just came in.
Well, you know, John, I hate to put it this, but see, that's why we're reorganizing. People just feel that, hey, we just don't have, we don't have a plan. We don't have the type of leadership structure that we could have avoided this situation. But now all of a sudden, we've got a city commissioner who's just gotten gotten on, if you will, and now that person is sort of like acting his mayoral slot, because in all due respect, maybe, because he's running for mayor.
So he just appointed the former fire chief, Mike Myers, as a deputy city manager.
But that was his bureau. What was he doing getting out of his lane? What's that all about?
So again, I can't speak for Commissioner Gonzalez, but I do know that it's scheduled to go into effect July 1st. When it comes to money, it's net zero, because currently Myers oversees the city's community safety division, so he doesn't make any more money or anything like that. He's just being shifted into a new role, but that new role wouldn't start until the new structure comes.
But John, a deputy manager, right?
Mm-hmm. Deputy city administrator.
Deputy city administration for bureaus. Mm-hmm. He has no background other than the fire bureau. Mm-hmm. Why would they allow someone of that particular nature?
Well, maybe we should get Rene on the show and ask him.
Rene, come on up. You are running for mayor, so maybe we should give you some time, and maybe you can explain to the voting public what was the rationale for doing what you're doing.
And I did reach out to them, but I have not heard back from them.
Well, in all due respect, he still has a responsibility like the other commissioners. They've got a job to do. They're still commissioners under the present government that we have. Wheeler is the mayor. If anybody's going to introduce anything, it should come through him first, and then educating the public as to why we're doing this and then basically have a discussion. And then if a commissioner wants to respond in that capacity, they can talk about it and then vote on it.
And they don't even have to come on. If they want to prepare a statement and email it over to us, we'll read it word for word.
No. He's running for mayor. I mean, the idea is that it's a very important piece, because if he's just using his slot, just running for mayor now, no, that's not the rule of the game.
All right.
You can't talk to folks who are running for office. These folks who are running for office right now, you have to file. You have to put your name. I'm running for so and so. He and others, 3 commissioners already said, I'm running for mayor, and that's not an equal share, if you will, of the running process. In fact, Rene has run. He's gotten more money than anybody else.
He is the top fundraiser.
80-some thousand bucks?
He's had a busy week. Also, apparently his parents' car got firebombed
in the front of his house. Right?
Mm-hmm. Did you hear about this?
Well, man, yes, I did. And I'm just saying, does he know why? I mean, I know why.
I don't know why.
It's really a sad note. See, he doesn't realize. You got folks out there that we still need to get to educate them about our system. Mm-hmm. And if you want to call them bad guys, but the fact is, they don't look at TV, they don't read newspapers and whatever. They need to know what the laws are. And we haven't spent enough time educating those folks to find out who are these folks, what are their background, are they jobs, their families, all that kind of good stuff. That's a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea is that, and then I heard active terrorism and whatever.
Yeah, it was. I think the term that came from the Gonzalez campaign was domestic terrorism.
What is that?
Well, I think it's terrorism that happens at home. I'm not really sure how they're using the word.
You need to come on the show to educate the public about what's going on. Got me?
Yeah.
And so the community would know just how that act happened. And in all due respect, maybe we can find out the individuals who did it. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to interview them.
Okay.
What's the rationale? Why did you do what you did? And I'll be right up front with it. If it was just kind of face value, they say, well, look, this is who we are, and he's disrupting this. Well, okay, if he's disrupting this, did you break the law? Well, maybe you did. Oh, well, I didn't know about the law. Oh, okay, now you know. But let me tell you something. You got to go. So my point, this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's so important. We're going to have 3 commissioners per district. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important. At least someone now is going to be able to pick up the phone. You got 3 people. They're going to have to organize themselves. We're going to have many cities. We're going to have 4 different cities. Many cities. We're going to have 3 representatives in that particular district. That means they're going to be basically living in that area and dealing with the issues of that particular area. That's a very important piece.
Sounds like that's a good segue into sort of the next issue that I wanted to at least let the viewers know about.
And get this candidate in.
So part of what we want to do is get grassroots candidates, candidates that have retail experience.
Right.
Typically, these aren't candidates that come from moneyed places.
Right.
And so one of the things that the city has created was a small donors program to allow access to the political system of people from all ends of the economic spectrum. But recently, the election committee just cut the amount of allocations by 65%. So originally in the small donor program...
Well, you said the committee. Now, I remember that the mayor was going to be responsible for that.
So the mayor appoints the election committee.
So he's ready to go out. What's the deal?
Well, I mean, maybe he's mad about people interrupting his meetings for the last 4 years.
In all due respect, I know the taxpayers got to pick up the bill. But we went through a process. Mm-hmm. We voted on that process. People voted on that process. We got to deal with it. And at the end of the day, I realize there's going to be X number of bucks spent on that particular product. But if you supervise the thing right, these guys, everybody's not going to get those kinds of monies. If you focus on the issues and get the right people for those positions, hey, we'll be better off. But right now, we went through a process and it was voted on by the people, not by the people that creates that basically carries out the policies, putting policies. we're the ones that basically create policy, the community, through our elected officials. Now here we've got elected officials that are basically telling us this is what you will do.
Yeah.
And that's not the process. They should keep what they've gotten, and they screwed up. Excuse the French.
Yeah. Well, and there's a group of candidates, about 12 of them, that wrote a letter to City Hall. And I'm really happy that we actually have one of the signers on it, Sarah Silkie, who we started interviewing earlier, but I'll just read the text of the article. We, the undersigned, are all candidates who have filed a notice of intent for 2024 City Council election. We are united on one important issue. A vibrant, fully funded, small donor program enhances democracy and allows a diverse set of candidates to make their individual case to earn the trust of the voters of our great city. We, therefore, call on the commissioners and the current city council to ensure that the city fully fund the small donor program and maintain the program match caps at the levels already in place.
Right.
This was signed by Jamie Dunphy from District 1, Timur Indoor from District 1, Chris Flannery from District 3, Mariah Hudson, District 2, Tiffany Lane, District 3, Chad Likens, District 4, John Middleton, District 2, Angelita Murillo, District 3, Chris Olson, District 2, Dion Salazar, District 1, Sarah Silkie, District 4, and Jonathan Tassini, District 2.
Well, you mentioned Sarah's name. I think you got to bring her on. I'm just going to bring her on now, and you guys can have the rest of that discussion, because I feel very strongly about the fact that decisions were made. I see lawsuits.
Well, one real thing that happened, this will be the last thing that we'll say on this, is that we had the first candidate drop out. Joseph Emerson, who was running in District 2, announced that he was having twins and decided to drop out of the race.
Well, I think it's beyond that. My point is that they should have thought about those things before they did that. It was voted on. You got to hang in that peace aspect of it, as far as I'm concerned. So from that point on, let's go on.
All right, let's bring Sarah on here.
Oh, fine, great. Sarah, welcome.
All right, thank you. I am so honored to be here. All right, thank you so much.
Sure enough.
All right. All right.
Okay, do you remember where we left off, or?
No.
Okay.
That was like 10 minutes ago.
I can remember that. But you started talking about a little bit about your career choice in environmental engineering,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I'm a big believer in stewardship of the land, and so
Yeah. Yeah. So I decided to go into environmental engineering and ended up working at the city for the Portland Water Bureau, which I am, proud to help provide clean, cold water for our citizens, make sure it's high quality, and all of that. Let's see, and I've been working for the city for over 12 years now. I got my license. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Oregon, and so.
do you have contact with like actual users, voters, or do you work in more of like an administrative?
Yeah, well, so I started off in water quality. My, studies were in waterborne bacteria and pathogens and water chemistry, and so kind of watershed stream stuff. But over time, I moved into the engineering planning group, so worked on different projects, looking into the future, trying to make our system seismically resilient, other kinds of planning stuff. And then
that was a big thing I had read about, is basically the west side's water supply is at risk if there's a large seismic event. Is that correct?
It's not just the west sides, it's the entire city. Even so, we know that the crossings will not survive a large earthquake, but we also know that the parts of the city on the east side that are built on fill, there's this thing called liquefaction that happens. And so if that happens, those distribution pipes will break, and all that will drain the water out of the reservoirs.
Wow, okay.
And then there's the whole system from the watershed going into town, that is also likely to break. So it's not just the west side that's at risk.
Yeah, because I know the neighborhood I grew up in actually was a former landfill.
Yes.
Alameda, believe it or not.
Yes.
The home of $1 million homes used to be the landfill.
Right. Yeah, so there's like a map, they've mapped out where it's likely to shake most, and all of that is likely to shake quite heavily and break the pipes.
Yeah.
So there's a 50-year plan, which hopefully that's soon enough to get those things taken care of, provided we stay the course with budgeting and all that good stuff. Right. Yeah, and then just over a year or two ago, I moved into, still Water Bureau, but Development Services. So reviewing incoming permits, which is a hot topic these days with the houselessness crisis. Yeah, so that is part of what got me thinking about city council.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of, it's been interesting watching Mingus Maps and Carmen Rubio sort of duel over the best way to set up our permitting system.
Yes.
I know from, just from a builder's perspective, it would be really convenient if we just had like one stop to be able to just get everything.
Absolutely.
And for me, and I'm trying to figure out how to say it, is just like, and BDS does a pretty good job, but just putting the customer forward. Just as a small business person, your business either dies or thrives on how you treat your customers.
Yes.
And, Portland was such a hot place to build that I felt like a sense of entitlement got built in, not just BDS, but in a lot of bureaus. So it'd be really interesting to have that perspective, somebody that's actually had retail experience being able to come down to the city administrator and say, hey, we can do this better. Hey, we can be more customer friendly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing I would call out is that it's not just being customer friendly, it's being cognizant of the effort of your workforce. So, we, like as one of the line staff, with over 100 overdue permits. Like when I started, we had so many overdue permits, and I'm like, I just started and I've got people calling me because their permit's 3 months overdue. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Let me see what I can figure out. And then only to discover that our current codes are so complicated, and our administrative rules, because they're done kind of independently by each bureau and each commissioner has their say, they do not mesh with each other, and they are not clear. I think we all agree we want to have street trees, right? We want to have room for clean water, and we want to have enough separation between your clean water and your dirty water, and you got to have room for your electrical lines. There's only so much room in the right of way, right? And one of the things that comes up is that one bureau says, well, you can't put that there, you've got to move this other stuff, and then the other bureau says, well, you can't move my stuff, you've got to move that other. So we all agree the tree and the hydrant need to be at least 10 feet away from each other. But does the tree move or does the hydrant move? Right?
And then you have a huge amount of time.
Right. And the individual doing the review, the way it's set up now, I do the review for the Water Bureau, but ultimately it's not my decision. I mean, I can, there's some things within my discretion, which is awesome, but there's other things that literally have to go to the chief engineer.
Oh, wow, okay.
And if the chief engineer says, no, this is not a go, then I have to go back and say, sorry, this doesn't work. Let's talk with the urban forester and see what they can do. And there's no single person who has decision-making authority. And that is what Carmen is trying to rectify with the single permitting authority, which I think fixing that is awesome. I think the haste with which it's being done, there's, kind of you can say, let's do this, but if you don't actually get in the weeds and make it work, it doesn't work.
You got to figure out the people. What are they? The people that are actually doing the work.
And you've got to listen to the people who are actually doing the work and find out: is the problem that the chief engineers can't agree, or is the problem that the code isn't clear?
Yeah. And
you know?
I think I just read something where permits are required to be issued within 120 days.
Right.
But then I think there was a change. I don't know if it came from the state or from the city, but they cut it down to 100 days. And maybe that was part of the housing regulatory relief bill that recently came out.
So
Were you familiar with that at all?
I'm familiar with that it came out. I have not read all of it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm still not to make excuses, but I'm working a full-time job, running a campaign, and raising 3 kids.
That's
so,
3 full-time jobs.
Yes.
Well, so just tell us why are you running?
Why? Yeah. So, like I said, I started off with this desire to help make sure like we lived in harmony with environment, room for people, room for trees, and I appreciate the work that I do now, but I've just had this nagging feeling that I could be doing more to support our community. And I really, over the years, I've seen how, yes, there's a lot of technological problems and there's a lot of problems we can fix with technology, but I also keep seeing that we have a lot of good technology, and the really big problem is that we don't have the political will, or we don't have the leadership to implement those technologies. When I was in grad school, I volunteered in Haiti, and I was there to help them with clean drinking water and sanitation, and they were saying, we were using solar panels and batteries because there was no electricity. And I was talking to an old timer there, and they're like, well, we used to have electricity. And I was like, oh, did it get washed out in a storm or something? And they said, well, no, the lines were cut, and it was just humans being mean to other humans. It was the whole control and power thing. So this was a country where, yes, technology was a huge issue, but it was rule of law. It was a failed state that pushed them backwards in terms of development.
I was there in 2001 as an election observer in Cape Haitian.
Oh, wow.
And, I didn't speak Creole or really that much French at the time,
Yeah.
but they were able to laugh at me because this was when it was Bush v. Gore.
Yeah.
And we were having all the hanging chads and everything like that. And they were like, why are they sending Americans to figure out our election when you guys can't figure out yours at home?
Yes.
And it was a great trip. And I flew into Port-au-Prince, and I remember it was like I was staying with a Christian missionary. And so we all got picked up from the airport and got driven back. And I was like, I noticed that they had a goat tied up outside the commune. And I was like, why is a goat tied up outside the commune? I was like, well, that's your dinner this week. And so I ate a lot of goat stew while I was in Haiti. And the drive to Cape Haitian was real interesting because it's like 150 miles or something like that, but it takes 6 hours.
Yeah, I did that drive to OCAP.
Okay, yeah.
And then from there, further out the coast to this, maybe 1,000 people lived there. But it's an amazing place.
It really is. And I was recently, my last international trip, I was on the island in Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And so I was going to meet a friend, and I did meet a friend in Punta Cana, but I chose the airport. I'm a backpacker at heart, and so I picked the furthest airport away in Santiago de los Caballeros, and took local buses over to Punta Cana, and took about 10 days.
Cool.
And so my last question for you is, in an ideal world with an ideal mayor, ideal city administrator, and an ideal council, what would be 1 or 2 pieces of legislation that you would like to pass?
Yeah, well, so imagine it's 2025, January 2025. We'll have a whole brand new council that will need to work collaboratively. You'll need at least 7 votes to make anything happen. But keep in mind that right now, the next year's budget, the budget for that time is being developed right now. And as you pointed out earlier in this clip, Rene Gonzalez is already appointing one of the deputy city administrators. We haven't, we don't have the mayor to hire a new city administrator. Nobody has appointed an interim city administrator. But the current council is already, there's a lot of finger pointing. They're spending money they don't have yet. And there's a lot of hasty changes like the single permitting authority and half-hearted changes when you need bolder moves. Like one of the things was sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up, but in the new city organization, there was disagreement about the natural resource area. And instead of saying, okay, we're going to go big, we're going to do it right and make a dedicated natural resource area, they said, well, let's just move the trees and the BES, some of it together under Parks and Rec. And really, it's kind of like a half, it's not really going to do anything. So I suspect that there will be some need to maybe undo some of the stuff that has happened. But I also, I think that you said it best a couple weeks ago when you said that the issue facing the new council is safety, houselessness, and getting Portland back on track. So I'm going to expect that all 12 councilors will have been elected with a mandate related to housing and safety. So we're going to need the best thinking, and we're going to need 7 votes to actually do anything about it. So I'm going to propose that we collaborate as a council to task the city administration to bring forward policy alternatives within 3 months. So I'm not going to come in with a plan of this is what we need to do. I'm going to come in and say, okay, we've got all of these great minds. We have all of these people with experience. We want you to come up with your best alternatives. You're going to bring them to us within 3 months. So there's a timeline. It's not going to go on forever. And then we can deliberate rationally and work together and come up with actions, not just talk, actions that we can vote on and move forward. I would also want to convince my council colleagues to refer all of the charter reform phase 2 measures to the voters. Okay. The current council just put those on the shelf and didn't refer them, and the Charter Reform Commission did a lot of outreach. So I might not individually agree with everything that they proposed, but I think it's up to the voters to decide. Like Bruce says, the voters are supposed to decide what the policy is, and if city council just puts it on the shelf and doesn't refer it to the voters don't get to make that decision. So I think that's an important thing to bring forward. And then I think it's important to acknowledge that our taxes are already really high. Mm-hmm. we are paying our taxes, and I'm not going to say we should cut taxes, but I don't think we can say, oh, let's just add another tax to pay for all of this. I think we need to look at our organization and the money. Where is the money going? We need some transparency around that. So how many upper level deputy city administrators are we paying several $100,000 a year, and how many frontline workers are there out there fixing the pipes? In the storm last week, who was out there fixing pipes and clearing roads?
Not the deputy city administrators.
No. So, if we've got to balance the budget, whose backs do we do it on? Do we let go of frontline workers who could be doing the work, or do we let go of upper level management?
I like it. So that before I let you go, name me 2 good restaurants in your district.
Gosh.
Surprise question.
Okay, there's so many good restaurants in all of Portland, as well as my district. So one of my favorites is a breakfast place. It's called the Down to Earth Cafe in Multnomah Village. They have fantastic breakfasts and lunch. It's not a big place, but they serve really good food at a reasonable price, and they're always really nice. And then second, there's so many good ones. I'm gonna put a shout out for my favorite coffee shop in Portland, Spella.
He's downtown.
Yes, yeah. And I think he's got 3 different locations now. So there's one in Harrison Square, That's the one closest to where I work. So I don't know where the other ones are, but if you love good coffee, it's just the right balance. I feel like a lot of Portland coffee shops have gone a little too light on the roast. You know, I don't know if you remember back in the 2000s, like everything was burnt and like way too dark, and now they've gone the other extreme where it's super light. I like a nice dark but not burnt roast.
Okay.
And they do it just right.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your service and for organizing this. And are you going to run?
Well, you know, right now I'm really
saying
just I'm focusing on the show and helping to educate voters, and I'm definitely taking a look at it and speaking with my advisors about whether we do it or not. But I'm still glad to be engaged in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I look forward to talking to you more, whether as a fellow council member or as a constituent.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, you take care.
All right, see you.
All right.
Okay, and our next candidate is here to tell us a little bit about her positions and why she's running. I'd like to introduce Debbie Kichin from District 2.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. And so say hello. This is Debbie Kichin. She's running in District 2.
District 2.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, so I've been a small business owner for the last 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And have lived in District 2 for about 40 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
So my husband and I own a small construction company. We have 15 employees. We do residential remodeling and commercial tenant improvements, and we focus on sustainable building. So using green building techniques, energy efficiency is a big focus, and using sustainable building products. I've also, prior to that, I was an economist in the energy field.
Oh, wow.
So I did regional economic forecasting for 18 years, mostly at the Northwest Power Planning Council. So there we focused on evaluating opportunities for energy efficiency and renewable resources. And at the time that we were created, there was a concern because the Northwest was building lots of nuclear power plants and coal power plants, and we weren't going down the road of efficiency and renewables. And so the Power Planning Council was created to look at that big picture for the Northwest and do the strategic plan for the region's electric industry. So
okay.
I was involved with that too. So I have a passion for economic growth and economic development, and especially the role that small business can play, both in creating this vibrant economy that we have, as well as, a vehicle for wealth creation for immigrants and communities of color and anyone who wants to, try to step out and take that opportunity. So that's something I'm very interested in and want to have Portland continue to be a place for independent business and small business and helping businesses and households thrive.
I did a little bit of construction myself for about 5 years under Toran construction. We focus mostly on public works projects.
Okay.
Now, have you done any government contracting at all?
Not really. Occasional projects here and there. Most of ours are private sector projects, and we have, like I said, we have employees who mostly are carpenters and some project managers. And what I love about our business is we have a great team, and it's multi-generational. We've had employees that are from 18 to 72. So I am very committed to providing opportunities for people to develop skills. The skilled trades are an excellent vehicle for families, middle-income jobs and families, and we have a shortage of people in the skilled trades. We have opportunities in Portland because we've been a manufacturing city for a long time, and we have opportunities in welding and other fields that you don't necessarily need a college degree to make a really good, great income for and support your family. So
plumbers are loaded right now.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's like trying to get a plumber out right now.
Yes.
The prices that they're charging. I mean,
It is, well, this storm has really been, we're going to be seeing the impacts of that for months, you know,
a lot of pipes need to be changed.
Pipes and trees falling on houses or decks or fences.
Did you have any blowouts on pipes during the storm?
No. And we were very fortunate to keep our power the whole time, but I know a lot of people had to deal with power outages and trees and various things that are damaging, you know, to their property. So
yeah, I live downtown, and so most of the power lines are buried. So we don't really have much. Usually don't have power outages unless it's like some crazy substation that gets ran over by a car. But this storm made me look at the trees in my backyard with a little bit different perspective. I've got some huge trees, like I have a 100-year-old pear tree.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And then the state of Oregon property is on the south side of my block, and they've got some humongous trees on it. And so I just looked at my trees the other day and was like, you guys aren't here to murder me, are you?
Well, it is, you know, it's one of those things. We love Portland because of the trees and the greenery, and, you know, they provide so many resources like, you know, habitat and shade and other things. So during a weather event like we had last week, you know, it can be really challenging because we do love our trees and have lots of them here.
And I don't have air conditioning, and so those trees really do keep my place, temperate.
It's amazing.
You know, it's like on those 100-degree days, it doesn't really go much over like 80 degrees. And I feel really lucky about that.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
It gives me a break on the electricity bill.
Right.
So tell me, why are you running?
Well, I am for a number of reasons.
Okay, great. Let's hear them.
I feel like one of the issues that I'm really concerned about and that I hear from voters about is public safety. You know, people need to feel safe in their homes, on the street, going to businesses, and I use the term in a very broad sense. You know, it's safety for everyone. So a person of color may not feel as safe around the police. You know, we need to have a police force that is accountable to the public and where we have a way to, you know, make sure that their behavior is beneficial to everyone and is that the law is applied evenly to people. We need to have safe streets for bicyclists and pedestrians, and we've had a huge number of increase in deaths you know, on our streets from traffic accidents. So you know, so I'm thinking of public safety in that sense. Our small businesses have dealt with theft and vandalism and you know, situations where they are in their store and somebody comes in and they don't feel safe. So, you know, we need a broad focus and in multiple ways on public safety.
Yeah, a lot of those small businesses are now over the last 4 years being required to hire private security. And you know, I've written a lot of business plans in my life, and I don't usually put in a line item for, you know, private security, which, you know, can cost anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. You know, and so that's like a huge strain.
That's not sustainable, right? And so, and I think we also see in some of our small business districts where, you know, you might have a small retail shop, there might only be one person on staff in the middle of the day, and if somebody comes in that is having a mental health issue, they need to have somebody they can call for help on that situation. I'm a huge supporter of Portland Street Response. I think we need to make sure we are fully funding that, and we are helping all of our first responders work in a very coordinated and, you know, way so that there's not. We just have to eliminate the resistance that one bureau has against, you know, the police and the fire and Portland Street Response and all of our first responders need to be working in an integrated way. That's the way that will make the most use of our resources, and also improve the safety that all of our residents feel. You know, so that's one issue that I think is huge. Having been in the construction industry for many years, I've experienced the dysfunctions in our permitting system. And this has a huge impact on our cost of housing. It delays, how long it takes to get permits to build housing, and it adds to the cost in a way that is really particularly bad for Portland, because in Portland you already have higher land costs, and then if you add to the time by months, that land cost has to be carried over a longer period of the pre-construction and the construction time because of permitting difficulties. And that is going to have a substantial increase on the cost of housing. And this is not only impacting homelessness, it's a squeeze on middle income earners, on pretty much most people in our city. And we're making it unaffordable to live here. I think we need to turn that around. We need to be more creative in terms of the types of housing that we allow, the flexibility of our land use planning, and look at everything with an eye to, to how to keep housing affordable in Portland. I'm not in favor of all the proposals, of course. If you just ask some people, they would get rid of our tree codes, or they would get rid of various environmental things we have. And I think we need to be able to balance both our goals in terms of environmental values and sustainability and accessibility and everything with trying to keep housing affordable. And that's where I feel like I can bring a lot to the table. As a business owner for 30 years, I've had to make lots of decisions about, balancing the needs of our customers, our employees, and the survivability of the business itself. Yeah. And so you're always having to make these decisions about trade-offs, and you have to respond in the short term, and you have to be able to take action, but you also have to be able to do things that move you towards your long-term goals. And so I think my experience as a business owner helps me in making those balancing decisions and those trade-offs between various groups, because that's what it takes. A public entity like the city cannot just represent one group of people. It needs to represent all of the residents and try to balance things. If we don't have a healthy economy, we don't have the tax revenues that support our schools, our parks, our streets. So it needs to be a balancing act, and we need to have people who can look at those different needs and try to come up with one that is best for the most people.
Okay. And then, so in a perfect world with a perfect mayor, perfect city administrator, and perfect colleagues on the city council, what would be one or two pieces of legislation that you'd like to see passed?
Well, I would like to make sure that we are funding our public safety programs, and especially ones like Portland Street Response. I think it will help our police be more effective if there are social workers that can deal with some of the mental health and addiction issues that are on the street, and police can then focus on criminal activity and investigating crimes. I'm not in favor of criminalizing homelessness, or we need to make sure that we help people and have options in terms of shelters that really help people heal from the trauma of homelessness, and can then move and become more sustainable, self-sustainable over time. So that's one thing that I would support very much, is all those alternatives that can help people truly heal from the trauma and move into being more productive in their own lives. And for some people that may be a very long time. They may be dealing with addiction issues, severe mental health issues, and it may be a long-term solution there in terms of their support. But those are the things I would focus on, and continuing the efforts to reduce the time that it takes to get building permits, the the dysfunction that we have among our different bureaus. And so it would be working with the city administrator and the mayor, who are going to have that responsibility of managing the bureaus. But as a city council, I would anticipate that we would bring the public voice, bring the voices of our constituents, our budget oversight, and so on, to helping work together to solve a lot of these problems.
Yeah. Okay. And I was just thinking about like the staffing thing that it kind of. You said basically it's really hard to have, and maybe I'm paraphrasing this wrong, but it's hard to staff a retail environment with just one person. And I believe that also, just out of safety concern.
Right.
And so I think the way that the organizational chart that the mayor set up for the new city council has the new city councilors only having like 2 new assistants.
Right. That's the current plan, and I think that's how we would operate. It may change over time.
But we're getting 2 offices, one at city. And
and there's going to be a district office.
Right.
But the district office will have all 3 district commissioners in the office and their staff. So, and it may be co-housed with some other bureaus. I know that, so that is a possibility too. So it may not just be a standalone office just for council, but it'll be some type of city office that has the 3 city council members, their staff, and I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be exciting to have offices in districts. I think when I was on the Charter Commission, that the wanting to have district representation was one of the strongest values that people really wanted to see a change in. And especially for East Portland, there was a sense that they weren't represented in City Hall. And that was just a big eye-opening for me, exercise, was the amount of consultation that we did throughout the city to hear what people's concerns were. People felt disenfranchised. They felt like they couldn't have a voice. And I'm very excited about the new form of government, that we are going to have district offices. The commissioners will be in the district offices at least some of the time, hopefully most of the time, and that will be a way for residents to reach out to their city council members and feel much more connected, feel like they can talk to, they can just go to right in their district and meet with people and not have to go downtown and,
deal with parking.
and
everything. Right. So
that's where
I'm very
from,
excited.
But I understand like people's apprehensions to like go downtown and deal with that.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so like my final question is, give me 2 restaurants in your district.
Oh my gosh. Well, I do think there are so many great restaurants. And I like a couple of different options. Eam is one of my favorites.
Okay. Is that the Thai restaurant on?
Yes,
it's on
Mississippi. It's on Williams.
Is it on Williams or Mississippi?
I don't know. I know where it is, so I go to it.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's a really good one.
I didn't want to try that one.
Yes, and I also really like Ox.
Oh, that's my number 1 restaurant in Portland.
Yes.
Just meat cooked over carbon is absolutely amazing. And so I like to put together a list for people. Downtown I run into a lot of tourists.
Yeah.
And so I usually put that down as like my number 1 restaurant. I say, you're going to have to take an Uber to it and everything like that.
Yes.
But that place is absolutely amazing.
But there are so many great ones, and I'm, just... enjoying going around the district. And I told my husband, we're only going to restaurants in District 2.
Yeah. Well, one I would recommend in your district is Joe Brown's. They just opened up a new out of Lloyd Center location.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that caramel corn is addictive.
They've got the caramel corn, and then they've got a full menu with Southern food.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So absolutely excellent.
Great.
Well,
Thank you so
again.
much for
Appreciate
doing
it.
this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very
Appreciate
much.
you too.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You sound great. You sound great. You sound great. You already look like you're in that chair.
Thank you.
Sure enough now.
I just think you guys are doing such a great job with
Well,
it.
thank you.
thank
We're going to
you,
have you
Debbie.
on again. We're going to have you again.
Oh, absolutely.
Just,
I'd love
just
to.
keep in touch with this guy. Yeah. Well, thank you. We got about 10 minutes to close now.
Did Moses come?
Yes, in fact, what we may do is that to give him good ample time, Vo indicated to us that we can have next Friday too.
Okay.
So we'll put something together. I told him I'd tell you about it.
Okay.
Sounds good. So
He's okay with that?
So he already knows. He's
Okay.
fine. No
So we're
problem.
just going to close out.
We close out right
like
now. We
normal?
got about 8 minutes and we
Okay.
just do close.
Bye, Debbie. Thank
Take
you.
care, Debbie. Oh, sorry about that, folks. We're just trying to get the candidates, give them good time, good equal time, John. And you did. It was quite a job. And the ones that we've done to up to this particular point have been just great.
You enjoy the conversation?
Enjoyed the conversation. They enjoyed it.
I feel like we got a great law enforcement perspective.
Good.
We've got a really strong environmental
Yes,
perspective,
yes.
and then we just got a small business, small builders.
Small building. Oh, awesome.
you know?
Awesome.
And so they bring a real good spectrum of experience.
Oh, that's good. That's what we were
to the
looking
table.
for.
Yeah, and just them being in the race increases like the discussion
Yes.
and the awareness
Yes,
on the issues.
yes,
It's
yes.
like Debbie can nail small construction issues, so it makes the other candidates have to kind of reach the research
them.
those.
That's what's good.
Eli, go ahead.
Now, what I was going to ask you also too, you have been reaching out to a lot of the other folks, right?
Yeah, I sent out about 15, 20 invitations for today.
Okay. Well, for those who are looking at the show, by the way, hey, get in touch with John because we're going to probably be here some more shows and
Yeah, and
we'll
the
schedule something
thing that
together.
I'm really excited about is Steven's offered to do Zoom interviews also, so
Okay,
we
good.
can do the
We're
in-studio
gonna interview.
format.
We're gonna interview.
I prefer the in-studio format
Right,
where
right,
people can
right.
actually see you and
Right,
everything like that
exactly,
versus but we are going to be doing some Zoom interviews for people that do have trouble actually getting out of their district. Some people just spend all their time in the district,
Yes,
and so
right. I got
we
you.
can just do a Zoom with them.
sounds good. So we do have venues either way.
Yeah.
Got me, but
Yeah, definitely.
like I said, we'll use the studio again, and we'll get that out, and those Zoom gatherings, by the way, will also be streamed out.
Yeah.
Through the studio.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits of that is like we may be able to facilitate having our viewers ask questions.
Right, that's good.
So they would be able to actually view the stream and then put their question right there in the chat section of Zoom.
Right. In fact, I was thinking about some other little historical things that we were thinking about possibly doing, because one of the things we didn't do, and it just happened because things got so busy and whatever, we wanted to recognize Dr. King's Day.
Absolutely.
And however, I had always had a special kind of a deal where I would include with some other entities during that same time that had their birthday, like Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass.
You're thinking about Thurgood Marshall, aren't you?
Yes, exactly.
First black Supreme Court
Heck of a dude.
justice.
Heck of a dude. One of my heroes. Anyway, Frederick Douglass had a birthday during that time. Who, as far as I'm concerned, created the Buffalo Soldiers, and former President Lincoln, who basically started the whole issue of civil rights, as far as I'm concerned, and then also with Dr. King, so those are three powerful entities, if you will, and so what we'll
I'll
do,
push a little bit to hear from Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. Too,
I
just to give a
know.
little bit of-
No problem.
Just to give the other end of the spectrum. We like to give the whole spectrum an opportunity on this show, Bruce.
I want
you know what I mean?
to know, as far as Marcus Garvey was concerned, I portrayed him in a show with one of the folks here.
Oh, really?
At a gathering.
Very nice.
I was Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
And I spoke about him, aspect of it. Heck of a. In fact, a person can Google the Marcus Garvey, and quite a background.
Well, yeah, they were the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, right.
You
right.
had Frederick Douglass on one end. To summarize, he was very about education and integration in
business
into the greater American society.
Oh yeah, big time.
And then Marcus Garvey was about community development.
Right.
Like specifically the black community development. And it's like once that's developed, then you can go over and.
But he was in New York too, in the Mecca, Mecca, in Harlem. You know what I'm saying?
And then you fast forward 80 years later, and then you have Martin Luther King on one end of the spectrum, and then you have Malcolm X on one end of the spectrum. But then, when you start looking at it, it sounds like they were coming kind of closer together and into their messaging as they matured as individuals.
Well, the other thing too is that, in fact, along that same line, Minister Farrakhan had visited here.
He's been ubiquitous.
And I had an opportunity to meet him for dinner.
Okay.
On a couple of occasions, you know what I mean, and he spoke here downtown, which was interesting. And I was there at the diocese and whatever. Very interesting person, and still is here.
Yes.
And
very divisive figure, however.
But still, there's a message there.
There is a message.
A lot of times people don't give him the time to share it, you know what I'm saying? Because they've identified him as a kind of an activist, that kind of a deal.
And he's got some charges of anti-Semitism, which is,
But I'm just saying, I mean, what would happen today with all the issues that are happening now in Israel? See?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, excuse the French, it's just slight. But my point is that
it's a very divisive issue in a community.
And there's a divide there, just like the Republican Party is, from the standpoint. And the Prime Minister, he's kind of he's an interesting guy.
Yes.
To making this kind of statements he's making. It's kind of, but that's another issue.
Yes.
That's another issue, and maybe.
Honestly, it's not really like a Portland issue, even though it's like the greater world. But at the end of the day, like the city council doesn't have the expertise.
Yeah.
The city council doesn't have the jurisdiction. Yeah. On this issue. But you look in the past, the city council has made resolutions like on apartheid, for instance.
I remember that one. And Ron Herndon was very much involved in that whole piece. And
so the city council hasn't always sat out international issues.
Right.
But at the same time, the city council isn't equipped to educate themselves on the issue.
But this particular issue with Israel now, everybody's being forced to react to it.
I feel like
you're either for it or you're against it.
I feel like it's a little bit more nuanced. I think everybody can.
But it's good. We have a discussion.
Apartheid as aberrant, but I just don't know enough about the history over in Israel.
It's quite a bit there. See, you're right. And
it didn't just start on October 7th.
Oh no. But then you ask yourself the question: well, why do we have a United Nations? I understand what that is. Very simple. Just so happened in this country put it together and organize it for the whole purpose of bringing the issue, put it on the table. Yeah. But people are divided now. I don't believe it.
Well, like you said, the country is divided. I know that we're really short on time. And one thing I did want to take up, want to talk to you a little bit about what was going on in Texas. President Biden put a deadline for the Texas National Guard.
But it's not going down, is it?
And so we've had about 25 states send National Guard troops down to Texas.
Yeah.
And so it's a very...
Well, that's another...
that's a whole new show.
Well, now we have two people running for the Republic. But my point is that's going to have to be decided. Then you're going to have the D's and the R's running. Between Biden and possibly Trump.
Looks like it's going to be Trump. I mean,
but my point is, we'll talk then about the whole piece. But it's very interesting now because the Nikki is basically the young lady that's running for
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley who's running for the Republican Party nominee is really kind of pushing the envelope during this particular time, talking to other issues, which is good.
By the time we film our next show, South Carolina is going to be decided. That's our home state. If you can't carry your own home state in a presidential election, you're out of the race.
On that note, that's good.
Thanks, folks.
Have a good one, folks. See you next week. Take care.
How'd it go?
Hold on for a minute.